The Bill Simmons Podcast, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, Kevin O'Connor is here. We are taping. It is about 7:40 Pacific time. Just watched the Bucks cruise to a Game 3 win. KOC, we've been working together 5 years now. When did you join the Ringer?
2016, August 2016, Bill.
Yeah, there you go. We're heading toward our 5-year anniversary. You're a handsome, bearded, multimedia guy now. You've got a YouTube series. You got your own podcast. I want to start with Giannis. Not just that he was awesome tonight, but there's something going on. Game 2, Game 3. There's a shift. And I'm trying not to overreact, but it's hard not to because this is the finals. This is the biggest stage we have. The stuff that he's doing physically, combined with the skill, the stuff, the looking for the teammate stuff today, but just his ability to basically do whatever he wants on the basketball court is pretty rare. And I was going through, I'm like, how many overpowering guys have we actually had in the finals? Like where it's just like a guy physically where the other team was like, we can't hold this guy off. And the list is basically LeBron, Shaq, Wilt, Giannis, Moses, and Kareem. And I put a lot of thought in that list. There's been other people, right? Jordan's been dominant. There's been Magic Bird. There's been dominant guys. I'm talking about somebody who's basically said, my physical gifts cannot be contained. And I feel like that's what's happened the last 2 days. For me, it goes back to that Brooklyn series when almost like there was no other option. He kind of had to figure it out. He started doing stuff on the right block that with a confidence I hadn't seen. Does he seem different to you?
He does seem different. I mean, I thought the stat that summed it up was tweeted out tonight by Shane Young. He said, in NBA history, players with multiple games of at least 40 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. LeBron did it 5 times. Shaq did it twice. Havlicek did it twice. Jerry West did it twice. And Giannis has done it twice in 3 games. And it just sums up how complete of a dominant player that he has been. You know, he talked after the game about, his mindset is attacking, getting into the basket. Well, I mean, he's doing that in different ways. He's doing that with the ball in his hands. He's doing it by screening and rolling. He's doing it by hanging around in the dunker spot and getting ready for offensive rebounds. He's dominating on defense. He's doing everything on the court. I mean, what we saw in third quarter of Game 2 and the third quarter, really the whole game of the game we saw tonight in Game 3. I mean, like this is peak Giannis. I mean, would you agree? Like this is obviously with the stage and the implications and everything factoring that in. This is the best Giannis has ever been, and it's like 10 days after he hyperextended his knee, and we thought it might all be over. Like that makes it even crazier for me.
Yeah, and that's what pushes this over the top to me because he's playing injured. Now, he didn't seem very injured tonight, but I thought he was 85, 86%, whatever in Game 2.
Are you sure he's not 100%, Bill?
Today he seemed 100. Yeah, today he seemed 100. But, there's a lot of like checkpoints that you watch guys hit, especially I'm older than you. So I've seen different great players kind of figure it out as their careers go along. And I think playing a little bit injured and how you respond to that is a small piece of it, right? Dealing with adversity. We've seen so many great stars over the years where they get their teeth kicked in a couple times, right? For him, it happened. They blow a 2-0 lead in 2019. Last year, they get embarrassed in the bubble against Miami. And then this year in that Brooklyn series where everything lines up for them, Harden's on one leg, Kyrie's out, and it looks like the Nets still might win. And it basically comes down to Durant stepping on, a foot over the line, or the Nets are probably going to the finals. But somewhere during that series, I felt like he got pushed to the place you want all the great stars to go to, where they're just like, I am not going down. If we go down, it's not going to be because of me. I am going to do everything I possibly can. Did you see in the third quarter, after Ayton got his 4th foul, which this is the first game they were able to get in foul trouble, and then Giannis he got a dunk, he got some free throws, but then they didn't get him the ball for like 3 minutes. And he was getting progressively more and more pissed off. And then finally, they had the ball on the right side, and he started like maniacally like waving his arm like he was like trying to get the attention of a waiter because he wanted to leave a restaurant. So give me the fucking ball. And they finally swung it around to him and he got it. But I've never seen him act like that in a basketball court. Have you?
I mean, we saw him slam the chair during a timeout in Game 2 as well. I mean, he's showing that side of himself. Like he knows what's at stake here. And you mentioned that third quarter, it was 63-49. When Ayton got subbed out at that point. And, the Suns go small. They start utilizing zone. And like you said, Giannis wasn't getting a lot of touches early on when they first started going to that. and they cut
the zone seemed like it freaked the Bucks out a little bit for whatever reason. They start shooting threes.
No doubt
why are you
about
shooting
it.
threes? They have nobody to guard Giannis. What are you doing?
The Suns cut it to 4.
Yeah.
74-70, I think the score was. And I'm thinking to myself, like, is this really going to be the story of the game? They go without Ayton. But then that's when everything really turned. Giannis inserted back into the game shortly, starts dominating. Chris Paul eventually subbed out, and then it just balloons to 20. Because it didn't take long. You really do. For all, I know Van Gundy caught some heat for defending Mike Budenholzer tonight, saying, like, all the slander and all that, it's nonsense. But Budenholzer and that coaching staff, you do have to give them credit. They have figured some stuff out throughout these playoffs. And I thought in game 3 tonight, they did a good job making the adjustments that they needed to. Granted, a team that is going with, Torrey Craig, Frank Kaminsky front courts, there's not a lot of answers for the Suns without Ayton out there. But when they went small and they went to the zone, it didn't take long for them to figure it out and to turn a 4-point game into 20.
They scored 16 straight?
Yeah. 16 straight.
There was a moment. So Cam Johnson had that crazy dunk over PJ Tucker.
That was nasty.
Which, of course, we had to derail the momentum by having the block charge replay review because, God forbid, we enjoy anything in basketball. But then Cam Johnson kind of had a heat check. He had like a 10 out of 12 points for them. And as you said, it got cut to 4. And I'm watching it going, the Suns have figured out a small ball type of thing where it's like now Giannis is away from the rim. He's not around the basket defensively. He's guarding Jay Crowder 25 feet away. The space is now opened up. This is a nice new wrinkle for them. And then the Bucks were like, no, actually, it's a terrible wrinkle for you, and just pounded them in the glass, which is something like, I think when the Bucks did this against Atlanta in game 6, right? When they're just kind of attacking the basket, and they're not settling for jumpers, and they're just like trying to use their size. And Lopez, who was bad again tonight, but just being around the rim, and especially having Giannis around the rim, that's when he looks like Shaq 2.0. And that's what they've unleashed. I love how many threes did he take today? He only took 2. He missed both, like he always does. 17 free throws, made 13 this time.
Incredible.
14 for 23, had 6 assists, but had a couple really nice created shots for people as he was drawing the defense to him stuff. But the thing to me is like, just go to the basket, Giannis. I haven't seen anyone in Phoenix stop him yet. And then you mentioned the Torrey Craig piece of this. The Suns have 7 guys, and one of those 7 is Cam Payne, who's played like one good game out of the last 12.
Cam Payne, ever since game two against the Clippers last series, he was awesome.
29.
That was his 29-point game. Then in game 3, he had the ankle injury, played only 4 minutes. Since game 3, he's averaging 5.4 points on 33% shooting. Oof. 7 games. He's been horrific. This is the Cam Payne who entered the league, the Cam Payne who struggled with shot selection, who struggled to put the ball in the net. They can't survive without him being able to provide a spark off the bench. So, for Phoenix here, with this version of Cameron Payne, with no Saric coming off the bench, when you might have either, no big on the floor, or you're relying on Frank Kaminsky, who stunk tonight, or you're relying on Torrey Craig in your front court. For Phoenix here, I can't help but think, Bill, we've seen the formula, and you can't always rely on getting a guy into foul trouble. But if you can get Ayton off the floor, or if you can get Ayton out of a rhythm, get him in his own head somehow, that is an area for the Bucks to completely exploit in this series. I mean, without Ayton out there, I don't know how many answers the Suns really have, because without Ayton, you not only do you remove a rim protecting presence on the defensive end of the floor, a guy who can be a Giannis stopper, even at the start of that third quarter before he picked up his 4th foul, they shifted Ayton off of Giannis, and they had Crowder or Bridges on him. And that's a much better matchup for Giannis. But not only do you lose that, though, you lose the rim runner. You lose the guy who's rolling hard in the paint, who's catching passes from CP3, who's forcing the defense to rotate in, or he was hitting some of these shots on the short roll. He had those face-up jumpers. You're losing that guy on offense too. He's a great passer as well. So if you're
you're losing offensive rebounds.
You're losing offensive boards. You're losing so much without DeAndre. And he's like Chris Paul, if the Suns win this, is going to win Finals MVP, and understandably so. But DeAndre Ayton should be second probably in that right now, just because he might be the secret Finals MVP if Phoenix were to close this thing out. But anything the Bucks can do to either get him into foul trouble or get him out of his rhythm, that to me is going to be the key for them moving forward in the series. And we saw why tonight, just with him not being able to play a full slate of 40 plus minutes. He only played 24.
Well, they got out rebounded by 17 today. Ayton had an awesome first quarter. He only finished with 18 and 9. It feels like most of that happened in the first quarter. Look, this isn't rocket science. We were texting about this a few days ago, where it's just like, get Ayton in foul trouble. That should be your entire game plan. Go at him 100 times in a row if you have to. Just try to get him off the floor, because I'm with you. I think the Suns just look like a completely different team when he's not out there. And the Giannis piece, athletically, he's the only guy they have who has a chance within 10 feet of the basket against Giannis. And Giannis, when Bridges is on him, it's over. Crowder is trying to do Crowder stuff, and I'm sure there will be a moment in game 4 or game 5 where he knocks Giannis off balance, and it'll be like, oh, was that a cheap shot? Or like, he's the master of those. But they just don't have the size. And they, to me, James Jones won Executive of the Year, right?
Yes.
That 10th pick in the draft that they've got nothing for in this entire playoffs, Jalen Smith, like, man, because it hurts you in two ways, right? Because Jalen Smith, they can't play him. But then Halliburton, who, as we've said a million times, was the guy they should have taken, or they should have traded that pick and traded back, gotten more assets, and they just got nothing for it. And I think it's really hurting them now, because they have 6.5 guys you trust. And I'm counting whatever happened to Campaign as the half guy, because he's just done nothing for them. But to have nobody after Ayton is pretty alarming. I would be really nervous if I was a Suns fan.
I mean, I think for Suns fans, there's still a lot to feel good about with the way Chris Paul is performing, the way he's getting what he wants on the offensive end of the floor. But that DeAndre Ayton piece of the equation here, I mean, those minutes without him, whether it's 8 minutes, whether he's playing 40 or whether he's playing under 30 like he did tonight, one of the things I worry about is if you are extending him to have to play 40 plus minutes every night, because the demand on him is significant. Like, it's, even if you can get him for 40 minutes without foul trouble, is there a point where there's some diminishing returns as the series wears on? Because he doesn't have to do that most of the time. In past series, that at least he had Saric behind him. Granted, Saric hasn't been the same as he was earlier in the year because of ankle injuries that he had. And of course, now during the finals, he has the ACL. So, for Phoenix here, those non-8 minutes, I don't know what the solutions are. For the Suns here, if you're having Bridges on Giannis, you're having Crowder on Giannis, and you need a help. We saw what the Bucks did in that third quarter. Just getting them into a little bit of rotation completely shook them up like a snow globe, and nobody was in the right position. Bucks were able to get open, easy shots or offensive rebounds or tip-in chances inside. I don't know what the answers are for the Suns without Ayton on the floor. With Ayton, it's pretty easy. The formula, we've seen it. But without him, I don't know if there is an answer. And I mean, it's pretty obvious, like, for Phoenix, regardless of how the series goes, what the number one priority is behind re-signing Chris Paul. It's finding somebody to back up DeAndre Ayton.
Well, there's a really weird final schedule this year, and I can't decide who it helps more, because we had 3 days between game 2 and game 3. We have 3 days now until game 4. Then game 5 is 3 days later on Saturday the 17th. Then game 6 is 3 days later on the 20th. And then randomly, game 7 is the 22nd, it looks like. So the only time there's 2 days rest is between 6 and 7. Other than that, like, that helps Chris Paul, because the Suns can play him more minutes. It helps the Ayton piece you're thinking. But more importantly for the Bucks, it really helps the Giannis recovery thing, because even having that extra day, I thought really helped him today. If I'm a Suns fan, I'm going glass half full, and I'm like, Scott Foster was the ref. Chris Paul was 0-2000 against Scott Foster in the playoffs for whatever reason. It's a classic game 3, great crowd. The role guys are always better at home. The threes start going in, all that stuff. They couldn't get a call. They had 24 fouls. The Suns had 18. So you're going to talk yourself into all these things. Like, we didn't shoot threes well. What'd they shoot threes
9
tonight?
of 31 tonight, 29%.
Yeah, 9 of 31. Now, they're not a 9 and 31 3-point team, but they're not a 20 for 40 team like they were in game 2 either. They're somewhere in between. So you talk yourselves into all these different things, and game 4 will be better, and Book's going to be mad, and all this stuff. The Giannis thing is just sitting there. It's like, that guy's going to kill you again in game 4. You have no answer for him. And I don't know what you do other than hard fouls, try to get in his head, really be physical with them, and use somebody like Kaminsky to just basically clobber him a couple times, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw the Suns try a couple of the different things in the first half. They began blitzing or pressuring Chris Middleton pick and rolls, turned him into a playmaker. I mean, you can't necessarily do that against Giannis, especially if he's in a screening situation there. I don't know what the answer is against Giannis. For the Suns here, it's what's in your control. You know Giannis is going to go off. You know Giannis is going to put up big numbers. He's going to dominate in his own way. I look at the offensive end of the floor, and the Bucks did a really nice job on defense at making things hard on the Suns. They're pressuring more full court past the half court line. In the half court, you're seeing some passing lanes that were previously open for the Suns. You see the way they like to whip the ball around the floor, closing pretty quickly. There's some tough passes and tough catches for Suns guys off balls. I thought that bothered Mikal Bridges quite a lot tonight. He wasn't able to he wasn't able to be in a comfort zone tonight. And so for the Suns there, I wonder, will they watch the film? Are there ways to exploit that pressure with some back cuts, maybe some design plays where you're screening against the pressure to get a guy cutting towards the basket? How can you use the Bucks pressure against them? That, what is in your control there? You can't stop Giannis. What can you do on the offensive end to continue producing in the half court? That's going to be one of the keys for the Suns moving forward.
Holiday was awesome both ends today.
That pass he made.
He was 8 for 14. He made 5 for 10 threes, so 21, but 9 assists. So that's basically, if you're drawing up what do I want from Jrue Holiday, it'd be make half your threes, give me a 20 and 9. But defensively, he looked like the guy from Atlanta Game 6. You could tell immediately, because he's one of those guys that's weird. There's offense heat check guys, but there's very rarely defensive heat check guys. But to me, he's a defense heat check guy where it goes to another level and you can kind of see it. The game slows down. It's almost like watching a boxer or an MMA guy or something. The game slows down for him and he's reading guys' moves before they can see it. I thought he was destructive tonight.
Yeah, he's given hell to whoever he defends, right? I mean, you see him on Chris Paul a lot more often now than we did in game 1, except for the fourth quarter. But whether it's on Book, whether it's on Chris Paul, that dude just makes things hard on your offense. Instead of you getting into your pick and roll at 18 seconds on the shot clock, it might be happening at 12 or 13. He's just so disruptive. And I agree with you, Bill. I mean, I think this is a player who he might be learning. We talk so much about offensive, learning what a defense does, understanding tendencies. But the flip side is true, too. Understanding how an offensive player moves, what actions they take on certain areas of the floor. And it feels like Jrue Holiday is one of those guys who learns things over the course of a game or over the course of the series and just ends up dominating at an even higher level. I mean,
who he's Kev? He's like our Lord and Savior, Bill Belichick. You don't want to play him 3 times in a season. That third time, he's ready for you. Jrue Holiday, maybe it's just the more times.
Did you hear Mark Jackson compare Chris Paul to Tom Brady tonight?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
Tom Brady has 7 rings. Compare him to a quarterback with less rings would have been my preference.